Yo, this is BenchGamer here. So today in Genshin Impact news, voice actors for the game have started coming out on Twitter, calling out the fact that they have not been paid for their work on Genshin Impact in some months. There are two voice actors in particular that I know of as of this moment, those being Brandon Winckler and Corina Boettger, who is the voice for Paimon. But more may come out in the future. I don't know. This is all I am going off of right now, which is what is going on here in this thread. As you can see, Brandon Winckler, who has worked on some parts in Genshin Impact, such as Kazuha's Friends, Bandits, Nervous, and additional voices, is calling out, not really calling out anybody in specific, but here he says, I have a big, giant, ridiculous call out thread primed and ready to go, but I'll leave it at this for now. Pay your fucking actors on time. I'm so sick of waiting 3+ months for payment for literally the biggest video game project out there. Voice actors demand your payments, and then here later on he complains about losing my marbles over this, losing them, which I would also be very frustrated about if I had not been paid in 3+ months. So it is very understandable. Of course, right now he's not directly calling out Genshin Impact, but as we can see later on when he quote tweets himself, he does directly call out Genshin Impact. This is about Genshin Impact. He says, after a fifth email with no response, this is regarding Genshin Impact. Inexcusable for us as actors to be waiting 4+ months for pay when you make $86 million per month. Unfortunately, this is not an uncommon problem. He goes on to say, it's really hard to justify working on something for the sake of work when you can't afford to eat. Many non-union productions have this problem. I've waited anywhere from 4 to 8 months for payment, and even then it isn't much to ask. 1,000 here, 500 there, and it adds up fast. I can only speak for myself, but I build my budget months in advance trying to accommodate this and not be a pain. Because I love to act, I love working on the game shows these studios work on. A game like this, without a doubt, should be a union production. With all that said, I personally won't be working on this game anymore unless it goes under a union contract. I don't have much to lose from this choice, and if I'm lucky, I hope others will at least see where I'm coming from with that choice. I'm sorry to be so negative. So, I think one of the first reactions that you might have if you look at the work that this person has done, Brandon Winckler, is just say that they're a very small part. If you were trying to like stand for Hoyoverse, is probably the fact that, yeah, this guy is, as far as I know, hasn't worked on any main playable characters, so you might just dismiss it as like a one-off. This could be just an exception. But here we also have somebody else, Corina Boettger, who is one of the most, like, is one of the people who has worked on Genshin Impact the most because she is Paimon, right? Well, she also says the same thing. I have been waiting for payment from sessions that stretch back to December 2022. So this is like what? This is literally 7 months ago. Kind of ridiculous how I am struggling to pay rent because this studio on this big project hasn't been paying me for my work. I have been working for months that have gone unpaid. This is unacceptable, and that's why we need video games to be union. Actors need to be protected. And then you have here, how do you all make it, blah, blah, blah. I legit worry about VA's well-being. I am literally at risk of becoming homeless right now because they have not been paying me. How is this legal? It's not, but I can't afford a lawyer. This is why more stuff needs to be union because then the union can fight this fight for me. How is this legal? Aren't they required to pay you? Yes, but I don't have money for a lawyer, which is why if games were union, the union would do this fight for me. So yes, 7 fucking months. Corina Boettger, as she says here, according to her, has not been paid for 7 months. Now, what's interesting about this is the fact that both Brandon Winckler and Corina Boettger mention a studio, and the fact that this game is not being worked on under a union. So, Ashkai then calls out another entity that is probably involved with this whole problem, as both Corina and Brandon Winckler have mentioned. It's the fact that Genshin Impact actually, the company that creates Genshin Impact Hoyoverse, actually contracts out the voice acting work to another company called Formosa. So let's just start from the beginning. This is absolutely insane. As Ashkai says, I'm no VA, but I've been a contractor for over 10 years, and the only time you wait more than 6 months for a payment is if you're a vendor, and that's part of the contract. Hoyo needs to step in or step up and make sure their contractors get paid. For added context, VAs tend to go through studios who are the ones that have contracts with Hoyo and aren't hired by Hoyo directly, I think. So this is not, based on any firsthand knowledge. This is just what Ashikai thinks. This could be wrong. This could be true. I don't know. But judging by the fact that both Corina Boettger and Brandon Winckler says that this has to do with the non-unionization of work on this game, as well as the fact that Corina Boettger mentions that there is a studio on this big project, I'm guessing that they are referring to the company that Ashikai is going to talk about, which is Formosa. Yeah. This feels important to me for a couple of reasons. Number one, I do some sponsored work with Hoyo on occasion, and I'm paid on time and promptly. I'm only mentioning this because my point of contact is very different from that of a VA, and it's the reason why it feels weird that Hoyo wouldn't pay for the characters' voices. I also do think it's weird, but I wouldn't also rule out the fact that Hoyoverse is involved in some way directly or not. I don't know. This is just going off of what Ashikai says. Number two, therefore, the difference to me is the go between the studio that's holding up payment, since that's not something hindering my payments, weak logic, but logic. That said, regardless of whether Hoyo or a studio is withholding payment, Hoyo is the one with the most power and who should care the most about the issue of their VAs being properly compensated. I don't know the VA industry that well, so I don't know logistically what would happen. So, my take on this is that, of course, if you only mention the company or the studio that is behind the contract work for Hoyoverse, then nobody is going to care because nobody is going to recognize that company's name. In fact, if you go to like Brandon Winkler's quote retweets, you'll see that a lot of people, um, you'll probably see something here. Yeah, okay, so yeah, it's Formosa. That's the first tweet. But a lot of people are calling out Hoyoverse and even like at Genshin Impact and like they are paying Genshin Impact. But the fact is that there is another entity involved, as Ashikai mentions here. Um, yeah, where am I? Blah blah blah. I think I read that already. Read that. It involved. I don't know the VA industry that well, so I don't know logistically what would happen. Uh, what would be involved in getting a new studio or putting in some kind of stopgap measure to help the people who breathe life into the characters that earn Hoyo all that cash, but something's gotta happen here. And she's also paying Genshin Impact. Again, I think the best thing to do here would be to make sure that Hoyoverse understands that people care about this issue and that the voice actors should be paid on time. So my concern is not to like defend Genshin Impact or Hoyoverse. My issue is that you should both contact Hoyoverse as well as this other studio, which is Formosa. So Ashkai Henshin mentions the company here. Actually, I'll throw in one more thing. The studio that does VA work for Genshin is Formosa. They were part of a strike that asked for fair pay back in 2016. Could be nothing, could be a red flag, since this seems to be primarily an English dub issue. So yeah, here they are. The 2016-2017 video game voice actor strike was a strike started in October 2016 by the Screen Actors Guild, American Federation of Television and Radio Artists Union, against 11 American video game developers and publishers: Activision, Blindlight, Corps of Discovery Films, Disney Character Voices, Electronic Arts, and Formosa Interactive. So, Formosa Interactive is this thing. They call themselves Formosa Group, part of Streamland Media. Formosa Group is widely recognized as the leading force in post-production audio. Formosa Group engages with filmmakers and content creators to tell stories through sound. Our innovative and imaginative approach has contributed to the success of a long list of projects, and we are proud to have received numerous accolades and awards for our work in feature film, television, interactive, and commercials. So they are far bigger than just Genshin Impact, as you can see by their list of works here. If you look at this list, they have worked on a lot of big games like God of War, Modern Warfare for Call of Duty, League of Legends, Borderlands 3, Death Stranding, The Last of Us Part 2, and of course Genshin Impact, as you can see right here. I'll probably zoom in a bit for you guys. Yeah, so you can see better. Genshin Impact is part of their work. They've also worked on a few other big things like Halo: The Master Chief Collection, Uncharted, Breath of the Wild, Dragon Age Inquisition, Fire Emblem Fates, Conquest. I think there's also one more: The Phantom Pain, Metal Gear Solid, The Old Republic, Star Wars, Mass Effect Andromeda. So they've worked on a lot of things. This isn't just Genshin Impact, but so far only these two voice actors have come out and said that they have not been paid for up to, what was it, like 7 months, which is fucking insane. So here is their Twitter. If you want to contact them or whatever, you should probably, ping them, as well as Genshin Impact and Hoyoverse. I think that would probably be the most effective way if you just stick to Twitter. and don't want to get involved anywhere else, which I actually frankly don't know how that would happen. But if you're working in this industry, then perhaps you could put in your voice and contribute somehow. So what I also find really interesting is that somebody here also says that just to clear things up, Honkai Star Rail is done by Studio Rocket Sound. Genshin Impact is done by Formosa Group. It's that one you want to be mad at. I am not really sure what the reason is for them to not also have Honkai Star Rail done by Formosa Group, but I do think it is interesting that Honkai Star Rail and Genshin Impact do not actually have the same dubbing group for for both games, right? Because you would think that if one group was successful in their dubbing efforts, then perhaps they would just go with the same group again. But no, Honkai Star and Genshin Impact, according to this user, Dreams to Teams, actually says that these two games are being worked on by different dubbing groups. So perhaps that might be a sign for the effectiveness or the lack of credibility for Formosa Group in particular. I don't know. There's also another tweet here somewhere. I think somebody says, yeah, I think it's probably in the code tweets. This game should be produced on a union contract. Formosa is an so again they're mentioning Formosa. Formosa is an SAG AFTRA signatory. I think that has to do with the strike here, right? SAG AFTRA, Screen Actors Guild, American Federation of Television and Radio Artists. So apparently things have changed since the strike. I don't know. They are just referencing SAG EFTRA signatory. So maybe something came out of the strike and they were signatory of the result of that strike. I don't know. I'm not clued in on the voice acting industry, but this is what they're saying. This game has been eroding voiceover industry standards since it started recording. The cast had to fight for over a year just to get a 2-hour minimum. What is this? Min. I actually don't know what this is referencing, but I'm assuming this has to do with like how much time they have to work, or they should get, how much work they should get on Genshin Impact. Now this whole cast should follow Brandon's lead here. By the way, a 2-hour minimum was so standard for non-union when this game started. Most of the cast didn't know they didn't have one until they got paid less than they were expecting for a session. Because this game got away with it. It's a fight for a non-union project at multiple studios now. So maybe this is putting more emphasis on the fact that Genshin Impact in particular had worse standards than other games. So perhaps this is not just Formosa Group. Perhaps this is something specific to Hoyoverse and Genshin Impact as well. I don't know. I'm just going off of what people are tweeting here again. So if you know more about this, then perhaps you could also voice your opinion on this matter. But yeah, this is what has been happening in Genshin Impact. At least what is most interesting for Genshin Impact for me today, at least on Twitter. This is BenchGamer signing out. Hopefully this all gets handled properly and the voice actors get paid. Whether it's because of Hoyoverse or Formosa Group or some other entity, maybe this is just a one-off, although I doubt it. Hopefully it all gets figured out. This is BenchGamer signing out. See you guys later.